In today's episode, we're exploring 5 people who were ripped apart after taking selfies with animals, from a construction worker's fatal selfie to a zoo volunteer's deadly trust. Let's begin with the first story, where one man's familiarity with local wildlife became his greatest weakness. It was April 18th, 2015, and the late afternoon sun filtered through the canopy of ancient oaks and cabbage palms at Myakka River State Park in Florida, as 31-year-old Tommy Valdez walked hand-in-hand with his fiancée Lisa along the park's popular nature trail. Tommy worked as a construction foreman in Tampa and had grown up in Central Florida, where encounters with alligators were routine parts of suburban life. His casual attitude toward the state's apex predators reflected decades of coexistence without incident, creating a confidence that would prove fatal. Lisa had moved to Tampa 6 months earlier for her nursing job, where she had met Tommy through mutual friends. Her Midwestern upbringing had provided no experience with dangerous wildlife, making her completely dependent on Tommy's supposed expertise. The couple had been hiking for 2 hours when they reached a scenic overlook, where the trail curved alongside a narrow canal connecting 2 larger wetland areas. American alligators are apex predators that typically range between 8 and 12 feet in length, with most adults weighing between 400 and 600 pounds. These ambush predators are capable of explosive bursts of speed when launching from water to grab prey along shorelines. Alligators are highly territorial around established basking sites and become especially active during twilight feeding hours. Their bite force can exceed 2,000 pounds per square inch, and they employ a signature death roll technique to drown and dismember prey after securing an initial grip on a limb. Tommy spotted a 10-foot American alligator basking on the opposite bank, its massive body stretched across a sandy area where afternoon sunlight penetrated the forest canopy. He positioned himself approximately 6 feet from the canal's edge while Lisa prepared to take pictures with her phone. Tommy's fatal mistake came when he decided that Lisa's photos didn't adequately capture his bravery around dangerous wildlife. He pulled out his own phone and began descending the muddy bank towards the water's edge, intending to take a selfie that would demonstrate his mastery over Florida's most feared predator. The alligator slid silently into the water with barely a ripple, its powerful tail propelling its massive body beneath the surface as it began its underwater approach. Tommy reached the water's edge and crouched down to frame his selfie, holding his phone at arm's length while the alligator remained visible in the background. The prehistoric predator moved through the murky water with remarkable stealth, its eyes and nostrils remaining just above the surface as it closed the distance. The alligator erupted from the canal with explosive force. The 500-pound reptile surged forward from the waterline in a lateral lunge, its massive jaws opening wide to reveal rows of conical teeth designed for gripping and crushing prey. The alligator's jaws clamped around Tommy's right leg just above the ankle, the crushing pressure-fracturing bone as the teeth penetrated deep into muscle and tissue. Tommy screamed and fell backward onto the muddy bank, his phone flying from his hand. The alligator maintained its grip on his leg, its powerful neck muscles jerking backward as it began dragging Tommy towards deeper water. Tommy's hands clawed desperately at the muddy bank, his fingers digging into the soft earth, but the slick surface offered no purchase. Lisa's screams pierced the air as she watched the alligator pull Tommy's leg into the water, his body sliding down the bank despite his frantic attempts to resist. The reptile backed steadily into the canal, its powerful tail and legs propelling it toward the center where the water was deep enough to execute its killing technique. Tommy's head went under briefly as the alligator pulled him into chest-deep water, then surfaced again as he gasped for air and continued fighting. The alligator began its death roll, spinning its entire body rapidly in the water while maintaining its crushing grip on Tommy's shattered leg. The rotational force twisted Tommy's body violently, his torso and free leg whipping through the water as the reptile completed full rotation after full rotation. The spinning motion dislocated Tommy's knee and hip, the ligaments and tendons stretching and tearing under the extreme torque. Tommy surfaced briefly between rolls, his mouth open in a silent scream as he gasped for air before being pulled under again. His hands reached desperately toward the bank where Lisa stood screaming, but he was already 15 feet from shore and being dragged deeper with each rotation. Water filled Tommy's lungs as the spinning continued, his struggles becoming weaker as shock set in from the catastrophic injuries to his leg and the repeated submersion. The alligator continued continued its rotational thrashing for several moments after Tommy's movements ceased, stopping only when the body no longer resisted beneath the water. The violent twisting motion had torn through muscle, ligaments, and tissue. The alligator finally stopped rolling and began dragging what remained of Tommy toward the bottom of the canal, pulling him into deeper water where the dark surface showed only spreading blood and occasional bubbles rising from below. Lisa collapsed on the bank, her screams bringing other hikers running from nearby trails. Park rangers arrived within 8 minutes and immediately secured the area, calling for specialized dive teams equipped to work in alligator-infested waters. The recovery operation began at first light the following morning. Tommy's body was finally located the following afternoon, wedged beneath submerged logs in approximately 10 feet of water. Wildlife officers trapped a 10-foot male alligator near the attack site 2 days after Tommy's body was recovered. Wildlife officers identified the animal based on its size, location, and behavior consistent with the fatal attack. Following standard policy, the alligator was euthanized. State regulations require that any alligator confirmed to be involved in a fatal human attack be removed from the wild due to the ongoing risk to public safety. Tommy's death devastated his family and the Tampa construction community, where he had been well respected for his work ethic and leadership. Lisa returned to Ohio immediately after the funeral, unable to remain in the state where her fiancé had died so tragically. But Tommy's fatal encounter with Florida's apex predator was not the only time someone's desire for the perfect photo would lead them into the territory of North America's most dangerous land predator. It was September 14th, 2016, and the crisp mountain air carried the scent of pine through the backcountry of Glacier National Park as 25-year-old Cole Henderson followed a familiar trail deeper into the wilderness he had called home for most of his life. The million-acre park, straddling the Continental Divide along the Montana-Canada border, represented one of the last intact ecosystems in the lower 48 states, where grizzly bears roamed freely through pristine alpine meadows and dense forest valleys. Cole worked as a ranch hand for one of the largest cattle operations in northwestern Montana, where his reputation for tracking lost livestock through bear country had earned him respect among cowboys who understood the risks of working in grizzly habitat. His childhood had been spent learning to read animal sign and weather patterns from his father and grandfather, both of whom had successfully ranched in the glacier ecosystem for decades without serious wildlife incidents. This family history had given Cole a confidence that bordered on recklessness. His girlfriend Sarah lived in Austin, Texas, and their long-distance relationship relied heavily on Cole's frequent photos and videos documenting his adventures in what he called the real Montana. Cole took pride in showing Sarah experiences that her urban lifestyle could never provide, often venturing into dangerous situations to capture dramatic images. The backcountry trail Cole was following led through prime grizzly habitat, where late-season berry patches concentrated the park's bear population during their crucial pre-hibernation feeding period. Cole carried bear spray and understood basic safety protocols, but his numerous peaceful encounters with bears had created a false sense of security. Grizzly bears are the apex predators of the North American wilderness, with adult males weighing between 400 and 650 pounds and possessing strength that allows them to kill elk and moose with single blows from their massive paws. These intelligent omnivores possess strong spatial memory and rapidly assess perceived threats within their territory, making them unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Grizzlies become defensive when humans approach too closely, and violations of their personal space can trigger attacks that escalate to fatal violence within seconds. Cole spotted a massive grizzly bear digging for glacier lily bulbs in an alpine meadow approximately 40 yards from the trail. The 550-pound male was focused on his feeding, using his powerful claws to excavate the nutritious roots that would help him build the fat reserves necessary for winter hibernation. Cole immediately recognized this as the perfect opportunity to capture dramatic wildlife footage. Cole pulled out his phone and began approaching the feeding bear, moving slowly and quietly through the meadow grass while keeping the camera focused on his target. He managed to close the distance to 25 yards before stopping to frame his selfie, positioning himself so that the massive grizzly would be clearly visible behind him. The bear had stopped feeding and was now watching Cole's approach with focused attention. The grizzly rose onto its hind legs to get a better view of this potential threat, its massive frame towering 8 feet above the meadow as it assessed the human who had violated its space. The grizzly dropped back to all fours and immediately charged across the 25 yards, separating it from Cole, its powerful legs covering the distance in seconds. Cole looked up from his phone just as the bear burst from the meadow grass, the charge already too close and too fast for him to deploy the bear spray clipped to his belt. The grizzly struck Cole with overwhelming force, its powerful forepaws knocking him to the ground as crushing blows landed across his head and upper body. The impact of the bear's jaws and forelimbs caused severe trauma to Cole's skull and neck, the blunt force and penetrating injuries rendering him unconscious within seconds. After several seconds of violent contact, the bear disengaged, stepping back as Cole lay motionless in the grass. Cole died from the catastrophic head and neck injuries sustained during the attack. Wildlife officials determined that Cole had violated fundamental bear safety protocols by approaching too closely and triggering the animal's defensive response. The grizzly was identified through witness accounts and physical evidence, and park policy dictated that bears exhibiting normal defensive behavior would not be destroyed. Enhanced warning signs were installed throughout the backcountry, and mandatory bear safety courses were implemented. Cole's death devastated his family and the tight-knit ranching community where he had been respected for his wilderness skills. Sarah was traumatized by the loss and became an advocate for wildlife safety education. However, Cole's tragic encounter with a grizzly bear was not the only time someone's misplaced confidence in reading animal behavior would prove deadly. In Florida, a veterinary student's academic knowledge would fail her when confronted with the lightning-fast reflexes of one of nature's most efficient predators. It was July 9th, 2014, and the humid evening air hung heavy over a private exotic cat sanctuary in rural Florida as 23-year-old Jessica Park completed her final feeding rounds of the day. The facility housed over 60 rescued big cats, including several cougars and other apex predators. Jessica had been volunteering at the sanctuary for 6 weeks as part of her veterinary school's summer internship program, gaining hands-on experience with exotic species that would enhance her future career in wildlife medicine. Jessica was pursuing her doctorate in veterinary medicine at the University of Florida, where her academic focus on large carnivore behavior had earned recognition from professors. Her undergraduate degree in animal behavior had provided theoretical knowledge about predator psychology, but her practical experience had been limited to domestic animals and smaller wildlife species. The evening feeding routine was typically supervised by senior staff members, but budget constraints had reduced weekend staffing to essential personnel only. Jessica had demonstrated competence during her 6 weeks at the facility and had been authorized to assist with routine feeding tasks, though strict distance and barrier protocols remained in place. Scout was a 7-year-old male cougar who had been rescued as a cub from illegal captivity and raised at the sanctuary. The 140-pound cat had lived in the same enclosure for 5 years, developing routines and territorial behaviors that Jessica had observed and documented. Cougars, also known as mountain lions or pumas, can weigh up to 160 pounds and possess the muscular build and lightning-fast reflexes that make them efficient hunters. These solitary cats are highly territorial and can become aggressive without warning, particularly when humans approach too closely or display threatening body language. Their powerful forelimbs and retractable claws can inflict devastating injuries in seconds. Jessica decided to document her work with Scout for her veterinary school portfolio, believing that a selfie with the cougar would demonstrate her expertise. Scout had just finished eating and was lying near the chain-link fence. Jessica positioned herself approximately 3 feet from the enclosure, close enough to capture both herself and Scout in the same frame. What Jessica didn't realize was that a maintenance gap in the secondary barrier had been left temporarily open, allowing closer access to the primary fence than safety protocols permitted. Jessica activated her phone's camera and held it at arm's length. Scout's yellow eyes tracked her movements with focused attention. Jessica leaned closer to improve the photo angle, her proximity and forward posture triggering the aggressive response. Scout exploded into motion with lightning speed, his powerful hind legs launching his 140-pound body toward the fence. His front paws extended through the chain link gaps created by the maintenance opening, his razor-sharp claws fully extended as they sought purchase on Jessica's neck and shoulder. The cougar's incredible reach through the maintenance maintenance gap allowed him to grab Jessica, his claws penetrating deep into her flesh as he pulled her violently against the enclosure. Jessica's phone fell from her hand as Scout's claws raked across her neck and shoulder, the sharp talons tearing through skin and muscle tissue. The cougar's other paw grabbed her head, his powerful muscles applying crushing force, while his claws inflicted deep lacerations across her scalp and face. Jessica was pulled hard against the fence, the impact causing her to lose her footing and fall backward, striking her head on the concrete walkway. Scout maintained his grip through the fence, his claws continuing to rake across Jessica's upper body as she lay partially against the enclosure. The attack lasted approximately 15 seconds before Scout released his grip and retreated. Jessica lay motionless on the ground, massive lacerations covering her neck, shoulders, and head, with severe trauma from both the mauling and the fall. Blood pooled rapidly around her body. Another volunteer discovered Jessica minutes later and immediately called emergency services, but the combination of severe blood loss and head trauma had already proven fatal. Paramedics arrived within 12 minutes, but could only confirm what was already evident. The investigation revealed that Jessica had violated sanctuary safety protocols by entering the restricted maintenance area and positioning herself within reach of the enclosure. Following a formal investigation and risk assessment, Scout was euthanized due to the severity of the incident and the enclosure breach. Jessica's death shocked the veterinary community and highlighted the gap between academic knowledge and practical experience when dealing with apex predators. Her family established a scholarship fund supporting wildlife safety research. Yet, Jessica's tragic encounter with a captive predator was not the only time someone's confidence in their animal expertise would prove fatally misplaced. Off the coast of Florida, an experienced fisherman's knowledge of marine predators would fail him when he underestimated the explosive power of one of the ocean's most dangerous sharks. It was August 22, 2017, and the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the surf at New Smyrna Beach, Florida, as 28-year-old Ryan O'Connor waded into the chest-deep water with his fishing rod and tackle box. The beach, notorious for having the highest shark attack rate in the world, attracted serious anglers who understood that the same conditions that brought sharks also created excellent fishing opportunities. Ryan had been fishing these waters for over a decade, first as a teenager with his father, and later as a professional charter boat captain who guided clients to some of the most productive fishing grounds along Florida's east coast. Ryan operated a successful charter fishing business out of Daytona Beach, where his reputation for finding fish and keeping clients safe had earned him steady bookings throughout the year. His girlfriend Amanda had driven down from Jacksonville to spend the day at the beach, and Ryan had promised to show her the wade fishing techniques that had made him successful. The fishing pier extending into the Atlantic Ocean created perfect conditions for encountering large predatory fish, as the structure attracted bait fish that drew sharks into the shallow water near shore. Ryan had been fishing for 2 hours when his heavy tackle rod bent double. The fight lasted 20 minutes as Ryan worked to bring his catch closer to shore, his experience telling him that he had hooked a significant shark. Bull sharks are among the most dangerous sharks in the world, responsible for more attacks on humans than any other species except great whites and tiger sharks. These aggressive predators can reach lengths of 11 feet and weights exceeding 500 pounds, with bite forces measuring over 1,300 pounds per square inch. Bull sharks are unique among sharks for their ability to function in both saltwater and freshwater, allowing them to hunt in shallow coastal areas where humans are most vulnerable. Their serrated teeth are designed to tear through flesh and tissue with devastating efficiency. Ryan successfully brought the exhausted 7-foot bull shark into the shallow water near shore, where the animal lay momentarily still after its lengthy fight against the fishing line. Instead of cutting the line and allowing the shark to swim away, Ryan decided to document his catch with a selfie before releasing it. He waded closer to the shark, which was lying in 3 feet of water with the hook still embedded in its jaw. Ryan positioned himself next to the bull shark and activated his phone's camera, holding the device at arm's length to capture both himself and his impressive catch. As Ryan leaned closer to improve the angle, his leg brushed against the shark's tail. The bull shark's recovery was sudden and explosive, its powerful tail thrashing violently as it regained enough energy to attempt escape. The shark's muscular body twisted and rolled in the surf, creating a chaotic scene of spray and foam as hundreds of pounds of predator fought for survival. The bull shark's jaws clamped onto Ryan's thigh as the animal continued its violent struggle, its razor-sharp, serrated teeth tearing through skin and penetrating deep into the major blood vessels that supplied his leg. The bite lasted only seconds, but the damage was catastrophic, as the shark's teeth tore through the upper inner thigh and severed the femoral artery, causing massive arterial bleeding that immediately began flooding the surrounding water with blood. The shark released its grip and thrashed away from Ryan, its powerful body propelling it back toward deeper water. Ryan stumbled backward in the blood-stained surf, his hands clutching at his thigh, where blood poured from the deep lacerations. Other fishermen saw the commotion and rushed into the water, pulling Ryan toward the shore as he began losing consciousness from the rapid blood loss. They dragged him onto the sand and immediately applied pressure to the wound while someone called emergency services. Paramedics arrived within 8 minutes and worked frantically to control the bleeding, applying tourniquets and pressure bandages while preparing Ryan for transport. Despite their efforts to stabilize him, the damage to the femoral artery had caused blood loss too severe to overcome. Ryan lost consciousness on the beach and died during transport to the hospital, roughly 20 minutes after the attack. The investigation revealed that Ryan had violated basic shark safety protocols by approaching an exhausted but still dangerous predator in shallow water where escape was impossible. The bull shark had exhibited normal defensive behavior when physically contacted, and no effort was made to locate or destroy the animal. Ryan's family was devastated by the loss of a son and brother who had made his living from the ocean he loved. Amanda struggled with survivor's guilt and eventually moved away from Florida, unable to remain near the waters where Ryan had died. But Ryan's fatal encounter with a bull shark was not the only time someone's misplaced trust in their understanding of animal behavior would prove deadly. At a primate sanctuary in Ohio, a volunteer's academic knowledge would fail him when confronted with the explosive strength of humanity's closest relative. It was May 30th, 2013, and the afternoon sun filtered through the trees surrounding the primarily primates sanctuary in rural Ohio as 26-year-old Derek Williams completed his weekend cleaning duties in the facility's chimpanzee housing area. The sanctuary provided lifetime care for over 40 rescued primates, including several chimpanzees that had been retired from entertainment careers or rescued from private ownership. Derek had been volunteering at the facility for 8 months while pursuing his degree in animal behavior, gaining practical experience that complemented his academic studies of primate psychology and social dynamics. Derek was working toward his master's degree in animal behavior at Ohio State University, where his research focused on the cognitive abilities and emotional intelligence of great apes. His academic work had given him extensive theoretical knowledge about chimpanzee behavior, communication, and social structures, but his practical experience had been limited to controlled laboratory settings and brief, supervised interactions. Weekend shifts at the sanctuary typically involved minimal supervision, as budget constraints limited staffing to essential personnel during non-visiting hours. Caesar was a 35-year-old male chimpanzee who had spent 20 years performing in television commercials and movies before being retired to the sanctuary when he became too large and unpredictable for entertainment work. The 180-pound male had lived at the facility for 10 years, developing territorial behaviors and social hierarchies that Derek had observed and documented for his research project. Chimpanzees are humanity's closest living relatives, sharing over 98% of our DNA, but they possess physical capabilities that far exceed human limitations. Adult males can weigh up to 200 pounds and possess pulling and gripping strength estimated to be 2 to 3 times greater than that of humans. Their powerful arms and hands are capable of generating tremendous force, while their large canine teeth can inflict devastating bite wounds. Chimpanzees are highly territorial and can display extreme aggression when they perceive threats to their space or dominance. Derek decided to document his work with the chimpanzees for his family back in Cleveland, who had expressed interest in seeing the animals he worked with during his volunteer shifts. Caesar was sitting quietly near the front of his enclosure, appearing relaxed and content after his afternoon feeding. Derek positioned himself within 3 feet of the chain-link barrier, inside a restricted service corridor not intended for prolonged human presence. Derek activated his phone's camera and held it at arm's length, smiling as he prepared to take the selfie that would show his family the impressive primates he worked with at the sanctuary. Caesar's dark eyes tracked Derek's movements with the focused attention that characterized chimpanzee behavior, but Derek interpreted the primate's gaze as curiosity rather than the assessment of a potential potential threat that it actually represented. He made direct eye contact with Caesar through his phone's screen, unknowingly triggering the aggressive territorial response. Caesar moved with explosive speed, his powerful arms reaching through the chain-link fence to grab Derek's shirt and arm before the young man could react. The chimpanzee's grip was like a steel vice, his fingers possessing strength far beyond human capability as he pulled Derek violently against the enclosure barrier. Derek dropped his phone as Caesar's other hand grabbed his head, the primate's powerful fingers applying crushing pressure to his skull. Caesar's jaws clamped down on Derek's face and neck, his large canine teeth tearing through flesh and muscle as he bit repeatedly. The chimpanzee continued pulling Derek against the fence with tremendous force, his hands gripping Derek's head and shoulders while his teeth inflicted deep lacerations across Derek's face, scalp, and neck. The attack escalated as Caesar used his incredible strength to manipulate Derek's body, pulling and twisting with such force that Derek's neck and spine sustained severe trauma. Derek's screams brought other staff members running, but the attack continued for several seconds before they could respond. Caesar finally released his grip when staff members began shouting and banging on nearby enclosures to distract him. Derek collapsed to the ground, his face and neck covered in deep bite wounds, with catastrophic trauma to his head and cervical spine caused by repeated forceful pulling and sudden rotational stress. He lost consciousness within moments as staff members called emergency services. Paramedics arrived within 12 minutes and worked to stabilize Derek, but the combination of massive blood loss from the facial and neck wounds, along with severe spinal trauma, proved fatal. Derek died en route to the hospital despite aggressive medical intervention. The investigation revealed that Derek had violated sanctuary safety protocols by positioning himself within reach of the enclosure and making direct eye contact with a territorial male chimpanzee. Caesar's behavior was determined to be a normal, aggressive territorial response, triggered by Derek's threatening posture and proximity. The chimpanzee was later sedated and relocated to a maximum security facility designed specifically for adult male primates with histories of aggression. Derek's death shocked the academic community and highlighted the dangers faced by researchers working with powerful primates, even in controlled environments. His family established a memorial fund supporting primate safety research, ensuring that his passion for understanding animal behavior would continue benefiting future researchers. Thanks for watching. Click the next video for more stories.